worked. Here was a guy who didn't know much English, but he learned the telex machine. In those days, we had telex machines. He learned how to run the projector, because in those days, we showed our advertising films on the projector, and we were a large advertiser. He would tell you where the finance director of the company was in Delhi if you needed to reach him that night. Aside, and everything from whether you wanted tea or coffee or whatever, you asked the question, ask calmly, and it was done. In fact, it became such a pleasure to work in the company after 5:30 that I found more and more people were staying at work late because everything worked. About 6 months later, our telephone operator, during the daytime, she went on maternity leave, and Kamble went to the head of personnel, and those days it was called head of personnel, not HRD, and he said to him, look, you know, I've been working now for 6 months, and I'm tired of working the night shift, so give me a chance. Give me a chance and let me try to be your daytime telephone operator. And the head of personnel practically fell off his chair. I think there's a conversation going on here. Can we have just one conversation? It's very disturbing for a speaker. And so Kamble was told that, look, you even pronounce the name of the company as Procter & Gamble, and we get calls from all over the world, so how can we make you a telephone operator? Poor fellow went away, disappointed. But I heard about this, and I went to the personnel manager, and I said, let's give him a chance. After all, you know, if we make a mistake, in a couple of days, we'll change him. Believe it or not, Kamble, after 2 days of Kamble being on the you know, in those days, you had telephone operators with those wires you put in and so on. And within 2 days, I got a phone call from our lawyer who said, have you got a new EPBX system? Because your phone is always answered on the second ring. And earlier, it was always the 5th or the 6th ring. We'd like to get a similar system. No, I said nothing. It's just Kamble. So I immediately went to Kamble and I said, Kamble, why do you answer the phone on the second ring? He says, because it may be a customer and I don't want you to lose an order. Imagine it was the very best answer that anyone could have given. Our finance director would not have given that answer. So here is Kamble, who then slowly, in the next few months, transforms the atmosphere of our daytime office. Anything you need, even though he's the telephone operator, you say, ask Kamble, and he will do it for you. And it is amazing how this guy worked. Service was in his blood. Anything you wanted, he could do it. And he was very proud of the products that the company made. In fact, once I overheard him when I was going past the telephone operator's office, And I found that he was talking about how his family, his wife used Vicks VapoRub on his child, and after that, how the child's cold got cured. So here was an extraordinary person. And I can only tell you that let me tell you the ending of the story, and then I'll come back to the middle of the story. He went on to become a director of the company. Now, wouldn't we all like to have Kamble's in our startups, where everything works? And so what is the secret? What is the secret of, this is not only the secret of great entrepreneurship, it's the secret of great leaders, and it's the secret of Kamble. That, I think the first thing is that we have to remember, all of us, we have to hire people. And when we hire people, we look at credentials. We say IIT, IIM, Wharton, oh, let's take him. And the person turns out to be a failure. And we don't think enough about the attitude. We overvalue intelligence and we undervalue attitude. Now, what is the attitude that Kamble represented? First, that attitude was a basic bias for action. That in other words, we have a bias for thought because we went to the university and we learned to read and all that. But what makes business work is action. And Kamble was not thought, he was action. Second thing Kamble understood, you know that question that I asked him, why do you pick up the phone on the second ring? He understood who pays my salary. My salary is paid by my customer. And he understood that. In fact, I think it's amazing how few people in business forget this. I remember that I went to my wife's birthday, I went to a sari shop in Lajpat Nagar, and I went to buy her a sari. And there were 2 or 3 shops, and I went to one shop because it looked like the guy was, it looked nice. And the fellow started showing me saris. And he kept asking me, what does she like, what colors she likes, and he keeps throwing, he takes thans from the shelf and he puts them down to show me. And before I realized it, he had shown me 50 saris. And I didn't want to see 50 saris, but I was so impressed with his effort that I bought 3 instead of 1. So a basic service orientation, that he wanted to please the customer. And that's what, 2-3 weeks after the sari incident in Lajpat Nagar, I went to London. There was a board meeting. And at lunch, I dropped something on my shirt. It was a white shirt, so big yellow stain on my shirt. So I ran to Bond Street, and I decided to buy a new shirt because in the evening, we had another meeting. And so the girl shows me 3 shirts in my collar size, and I ask her, can I see more? And she says, first, will you buy one of these? And I said, every time you open your mouth, you lose a customer. Who trained you? I went and talked to her supervisor. I said, you're a disaster. And I told the story of the sari shop, where the poor guy had to put back those 40 thans onto the shelf. And so, this is, you go to a dhaba, immediately your thali comes in 3 minutes. That's service. And we don't realize that there are only 3 ways to create competitive advantage in business. One is through lower prices. And you all know, your finance people will tell you, that if you lower your price, it goes down to the bottom line and hurts your profit. The other way is through better quality, better than your competitor, but for that you have to invest in R&D. That costs money. The third way is service, better service, and that's free. So you hire the right people with, like Kamble, and you'll get good service and gain competitive advantage free. In fact, for many products in the market, the quality, the prices are pretty much the same. The quality, people catch up with new technology within 6 months. They're pretty much the same. So what distinguishes the company is the service. And it's free. And that's what Kamble brought to our company. The other thing Kamble brought is an understanding that he was so proud of the products that we sold, whether it's Vicks Vapor Rub or Pantene shampoo or whatever, or oil of Olay, that he felt that our products worked and our competitors' products failed. Now, that's the mindset that you in the startups have to have. My product works, my service works, my competitor fails. And I think that's a very important, that's what I used to tell our advertising agencies in Procter & Gamble. You create an advertising commercial, and its only job is to say, my competitor fails and I work. Then I think the other attitude that Kamble had was basically a can-do attitude. An attitude that never said no. He found the answer. And that's why a fellow who was metric pass went on to become a director of the company. It's a tribute to the company as well as to Kamble, who saw it. The final lesson is Kamble taught me that execution is more important than strategy. Now, I was head of global strategy for Procter & Gamble at one time, but it was a humbling experience. And in the experience at Chris Capital, the private equity company and venture capital, where we, helped a lot of entrepreneurs with money, I learned that companies that succeeded were not the companies with the best strategy, but with the best execution. And that's what Kamble was all about. So how do we fill our companies with Kambles? Wouldn't we all like that? Make our life so much easier? And the answer is that the mistake we make is in the way we hire people. In the interview, when we interview somebody, we start asking about his knowledge or her knowledge, what she knows. Well, if she's got good credentials, she knows a lot. So you shouldn't be looking for what the person knows or what skills the person has. What you need to look at is attitude. Attitude. And so, the best way, frankly, is to bring, bhai ye kya ho rahi baat idhar? Ladai ho rahi hai? is to bring the person into the company as an intern or a trial basis for the summer, and let that person work and do a 3-month interview. That's the best way. Now you're in a hurry, you can't afford that time. But spend time with the company. There's only one company I know which spends time in looking for attitude. It's a company called Goldman Sachs. You know, my nephew stood first in Princeton. And he had to go through 25 interviews over 2.5 months before they hired him. And what were they looking for? Attitude. And so, frankly, really, you are all leaders in the end. Now, leaders can inspire people through energy, through good strategy, but the best way to inspire people is through example. And that's what Kamble did, just by being around. Just by being around. And so I don't want to take between you and now I see the main course has arrived. I don't want to be in between this. And certainly it was a hard act to follow the Ullukapatha dentist that we had before us. So let me, on that note, leave you with just this one thought. The most important decision you take is when you hire a person or you bring somebody as a partner. Don't look for intelligence. Look for attitude. And look for things like determination. Look for some things like determination. You know, as voters, we make the same mistake as business people. We had the most intelligent prime minister in the world in Dr. Manmohan Singh, but he was a failure. So what did we do as a country? We brought in a person, a chaiwala's son, who now we hope will have the determination. So determination is one quality that's far more important than intelligence. Thank you.